I was the benchwarmer's son, the one nobody took seriously. My brother got the trophies, my dad got the glory, and I got forgotten. Until one night. I've been invisible most of my life. That's not me exaggerating or fishing for pity, it's just the truth. If you grow up in the shadow of Marcus Cole, you learn quickly how to shrink yourself down, how to stay quiet, how to breathe without being noticed. Marcus wasn't just my brother. He was a headline, a billboard, a walking highlight reel. By the time he was 17, he had scouts from half the country knocking at our door. By 20, he was the face of the state's championship team. And me? I was just the other son. Jayden. The one who sat on the bench in middle school, who never grew into his shoulders, who everyone whispered didn't even look like a real Cole. My father, Coach Richard Cole, made sure I never forgot it. Stand straight, Jayden, he'd bark during family photos, even though the flash was meant for Marcus. Try not to look like you don't belong. That was his way, sharp words dressed as advice. He believed pressure made diamonds. But I never felt like a diamond. More like the dirt he had to brush off Marcus's shine. The night everything started, I was back home in Houston. The city was buzzing because Marcus's team had just secured the state championship. My father threw a celebration at the arena, a victory gala with flashing lights, loud music, and every sponsor in town raising a glass to the Cole dynasty. I wasn't supposed to be there. Don't embarrass yourself, Marcus had told me earlier that week, when he caught me glancing at the invitation on the counter. He said it with a smile, but the kind that cuts deeper than a knife. These people don't even know your name. But I went anyway. Not for him. Not for my father. I went for Nana B. She'd called me the night before. Her voice cracked through the phone, scratchy but warm. Baby, you come tomorrow, you hear? I don't care what anyone says. I want my Jayden there. And that was enough. Because Nana B was the only one who ever saw me. When I walked into the arena that night, the place looked like a cathedral built for Marcus. His face was everywhere, on banners, on screens, even lit up in gold letters on the stage backdrop. Marcus Cole, the future of the game. I slipped through the crowd, careful not to draw attention. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even looked twice. That was the advantage of being invisible. You could go anywhere, hear anything, and people never suspected you mattered. Up on stage, Marcus was grinning like a king. My father stood beside him, hand on his shoulder, chest puffed out with pride. Reporters shoved microphones in their faces, sponsors circled like sharks ready to throw money at the golden boy. Marcus is more than a player, my father boomed into the mic, he's the heir to the Cole legacy. This family, this city, this sport, it all belongs to him. The crowd erupted. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent. I'd been training myself for years not to flinch. Then I saw her, Nana B, sitting off to the side in her wheelchair, lips pressed thin, her sharp old eyes fixed not on Marcus, but on me. She lifted one shaky hand, motioning me over. I went. She gripped my wrist when I reached her. Her hand was frail, but her hold was iron. They think tonight is the end of the story, she whispered. But it's only the beginning. I frowned, leaning closer. What do you mean? Her eyes gleamed. You'll see, baby. Just promise me something, you won't let them break you. You'll wait. What? And when the time comes, you'll take what's yours. I didn't understand then. Not fully. But I nodded anyway, because I'd never been able to say no to her. Hours passed, the celebration drowning in music and alcohol. Marcus soaked in the attention like a sponge. My father looked 20 years younger, laughing and slapping backs with other coaches. And me? I stood in the corner, sipping water, blending into the shadows. Until it happened. An announcement cut through the noise. The MC called for silence. Everyone turned as Nana B's chair rolled onto the stage. The old woman hadn't spoken publicly in years. Most thought she'd gone soft in the head. But there she was, fragile yet fierce, taking the microphone with trembling fingers. My friends, she began, her voice steady despite the hush in the room, tonight you celebrate Marcus. And rightly so. He is a fine athlete, and I am proud of him. Applause thundered. My father beamed. Marcus waved like a prince. But, she said sharply, silencing them with one word, There is something you all forget. The room leaned in. This family's legacy is not built on one pair of shoulders. And it will not be carried by ego or favoritism. It will be carried by loyalty, by patience, by the one who watches when no one else bothers to look. I felt my heart pound against my ribs. Her gaze cut through the crowd, past Marcus, past my father, and landed on me. This is not Marcus's empire alone, she said, her voice hard as steel. The controlling shares of the Cole franchise, the contracts, the future, they belong to my grandson Jayden. The room froze. My father's smile shattered. Marcus's jaw dropped. Gasps rippled like waves in the arena. And me? I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Because in that single moment, the world I thought I'd never touch was suddenly in my hands. And I knew this wasn't a gift. It was a weapon. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the gala ended and the last drunk sponsor staggered out of the arena, the noise stayed with me, the gasps, the whispers, the disbelief. I lay on the old couch in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, trying to breathe past the knot in my throat. My phone buzzed nonstop on the table. Unknown numbers. Reporters. Probably old teammates I hadn't spoken to in years. I didn't answer a single one. By morning, my name was everywhere. Jayden Cole, the forgotten heir. Shock move. Nana B hands power to the benchwarmer. Dynasty in crisis. What's next for the Coles? Each headline felt unreal, like someone else's life had been pasted over mine. I'd spent 24 years as a shadow, and overnight I was the center of the storm. The first call I did answer was from my father. "Get your ass to the house," he barked before I could say hello. "Now." The line went dead. I knew better than to make him wait. The Cole estate sat on the edge of Houston, a sprawling mansion wrapped in iron gates and old oak trees. Growing up, it never felt like home to me. More like a trophy case built out of brick and glass. When I walked through the front door that morning, the air was thick, tense, like the quiet before a whistle blows. My father was in the den, pacing. Marcus sat slouched in a chair, sunglasses on even though the curtains were drawn. He didn't look at me when I entered, but I could feel the heat of his anger from across the room. "Sit," my father ordered. I sat. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Then he turned on me. "What the hell did you do?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb with me." His voice was low, dangerous. "You think I don't know you've been whispering to your grandmother behind my back? Filling her head with nonsense? She stood on that stage and humiliated this family, humiliated me, and you expect me to believe you had nothing to do with it? I didn't." "Shut up." His fist slammed the table, rattling a crystal glass. "You don't deserve what she gave you. You haven't earned it. Everything this family built, everything I bled for, it belongs to Marcus." Marcus finally looked at me then. His eyes, usually so easy and full of charm, were hard, sharp as knives. "You stole it," he said quietly. "You stole my life." I wanted to laugh at the irony. Stole his life? What about the years he stole from me? The attention, the pride, the love I never got. But I kept my mouth shut. "Listen to me," my father said, leaning close, his fingers stabbing the air between us. "You will fix this. You will stand in front of every reporter, every sponsor, and you will say your grandmother was confused. Poor judgment. You will sign whatever papers I put in front of you, and you will hand everything back where it belongs." My stomach turned. "And if I don't?" The silence that followed was louder than any shout. My father's jaw clenched. Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Then you'll regret it," my father said finally. His voice was calm now, too calm. "And I promise you, boy, you won't last a week in this family if you cross me." I left the house without another word. The sun outside felt harsher, the air heavier. I walked to my car with my father's threat echoing in my ears. Part of me wanted to do what he said. To run back into the shadows, give Marcus everything, let the storm pass. It would have been easier. Safer. But when I sat in the driver's seat, I remembered the look in Nana Bay's eyes as she'd spoken on that stage. Fierce. Certain. She hadn't been confused. She'd known exactly what she was doing. She'd chosen me. And for the first time in my life, I started to wonder why. That night, I visited her. The nurses at her retirement home tried to stop me. It was late, past visiting hours, but she must have heard my voice in the hallway, because she called out, "Let him in." Her room smelled faintly of lavender and old books. She was propped up in bed, her sharp eyes brighter than ever. "I was waiting for you," she said. I sat beside her, words spilling before I could stop them. "They're furious, Nana. Dad wants me to sign everything away. Marcus says I stole his life. I don't understand why you did this." "Why me?" She reached out, her hand trembling but steady in purpose, and laid it over mine. "Because you are the only one they can't see," she said softly. "And that makes you dangerous." I stared at her. Dangerous? "Nana, I'm nothing like Marcus. I'm not a star. I'm not a fighter." "You're wrong." Her eyes bored into mine. "You've been surviving in the shadows all these years. Watching. Learning. You know every weakness they hide because they never bothered to hide it from you. They underestimated you, Jayden. And now? That's your greatest weapon." Her grip tightened. "Don't give it back. Don't bow to them. Use what I gave you, and when the time comes, you take control. Quietly. Without raising your voice. That's how you win." For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. Because deep down, a part of me, a part I'd buried for years, wanted exactly that. Not their approval. Not their applause. I wanted revenge. When I left her room, the night air felt different. Colder. Sharper. For the first time, I wasn't invisible anymore. And if my father and brother thought I'd just hand everything back, they were about to learn what it meant to finally notice Jayden Cole. The first thing I learned about power was this. It doesn't live in trophies or newspaper headlines. It lives in whispers. In quiet rooms. In the spaces where no cameras are allowed. For years, I'd been invisible at those tables. Just the extra body no one introduced, the one pouring water while Marcus charmed the sponsors. But now, those same men and women were calling my phone, asking for meetings. Not because they cared about me, but because they cared about Nana BA's shares. And I went. I met them in restaurants, in boardrooms, even in quiet corners of the arena. I didn't come with speeches or demands. I just listened. That's what nobody ever understood about me. I'd spent 2 decades in the shadows, and in those shadows, I learned the value of silence. People talk when they think you're not a threat. And when they talk, they reveal everything. One sponsor admitted he was sick of Marcus's arrogance. Another hinted at contracts my father had been hiding, deals made under the table. A third, after a few too many drinks, confessed that the Cole empire wasn't as clean as it looked. Money had been shuffled, games had been influenced. I took notes. Mental ones. Quiet ones. Every word was a thread. And I started weaving. Meanwhile, at home, the cracks in the dynasty were starting to show. Marcus wasn't smiling anymore. He snapped at reporters, cursed out teammates, and stormed out of practices. He'd always been golden because he carried himself like a god, untouchable and adored. But gods don't bleed. And now the world had seen him bleed. On that stage, the night his crown slipped onto my head. My father tried to patch it, of course. Press conferences, photo ops, desperate attempts to keep Marcus shining. But desperation never looks good on a man like him. The more he tried to smother the fire, the more smoke filled the air. And through it all, I said nothing. I just showed up where I wasn't expected. At the training facility, I sat in the back during sponsor visits, notebook in hand. At charity events, I stood quietly beside Nana B's chair, shaking hands when people offered. Even at the arena, I walked the halls with my badge, her badge, and let people wonder, who is Jayden Cole really? That question spread faster than any headline. And when people start asking who you are, you've already won half the battle. The other half came one night at the practice gym. Marcus was shooting hoops alone, sweat dripping down his arms, his face twisted in frustration. He hadn't noticed me walk in. "Still chasing perfection?" I asked, leaning against the bleachers. The ball clattered off the rim. He turned, eyes burning. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Watching," I said simply. He sneered. That's all you've ever been good at. Maybe once that would have cut me. But not anymore. I just smiled. Funny. Watching seems to be working out for me. His jaw tightened. He bounced the ball hard against the floor, the sound echoing through the empty gym. You think this is a game? He spat. You think you can just walk in and take everything I worked for? No, I said softly. I think you're going to hand it to me yourself. For a moment, silence. His breathing was ragged, his shoulders tense. He wanted to hit me, I could see it in his eyes. But he didn't. Because deep down, he knew I was right. 2 weeks later, I proved it. A local reporter called me for a private interview. Not about me, about Marcus. Rumors of his outbursts, whispers about his drinking, his late-night gambling habits. Things I'd heard for years but never repeated. I didn't confirm. I didn't deny. I just said, off the record? You might want to start asking the right questions. That was enough. The next morning, headlines blared, "Golden Boy under fire, Marcus Cole's dark side exposed." My father went ballistic. He stormed through the arena, shouting about betrayal, about snakes in the grass. Marcus refused to leave his room. Reporters camped outside the mansion gates. And me? I kept my mouth shut. I didn't need to raise my voice. The storm was already here, and all I had to do was stand still while it tore through their kingdom. But in the middle of the chaos, Nana B called me again. Don't get reckless, she warned, her voice frail but sharp. You've started something you can't turn back. Remember, patience. Quiet steps. Let them fall on their own. I know, I said. But, Nana, how far do you want me to take this? Her silence lasted long enough to make my chest tighten. Then she whispered, far enough that they never rise again. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about building something new from the ruins. Something that would finally belong to me. That night, I stood outside the arena, watching the giant banners of Marcus's face flutter in the wind. His smile looked forced now, almost mocking. For years, I thought those banners would outlive me. That my name would never matter in a world built for him. But now, I could see it clearly. One day soon, it would be my face hanging up there. And nobody would dare look past me again. The end didn't come with fists or shouting. It came with paper. Thick contracts. Hidden clauses. Quiet signatures. That was the real battlefield, the one my father and Marcus had always assumed I'd never step foot on. And maybe they were right once. But now, I learned. For weeks, I gathered pieces. A whispered complaint from a sponsor. A copy of an old contract slipped to me by a disgruntled assistant. Emails, accidentally, forwarded to my inbox. Each piece alone was harmless. Together, they formed a weapon sharper than any blade. And I waited. Patience, that was the lesson. Let them crumble on their own. It started with Marcus. The gambling rumors weren't rumors anymore. Photos surfaced. Him at a poker table at 3 a.m, surrounded by bottles and smoke. Then came footage of him shoving a reporter outside a club, his voice slurred, eyes wild. By the time the league launched an investigation, Marcus's sponsors were gone. His teammates refused to defend him. The Golden Boy had tarnished, and nobody wanted to touch him. I didn't have to lift a finger. But my father, he was harder. Coach Richard Cole had built his name on discipline, on being untouchable. But discipline is just a mask, and I'd learned where the cracks were. A quiet meeting with the board of directors. A carefully placed folder, one I'd put together, showing financial discrepancies. Money funneled from the franchise into private accounts. Deals struck with backdoor promises. Enough to spark suspicion, not yet enough to prove guilt. Suspicion was all it took. Reporters swarmed. Sponsors pulled back. The board demanded answers. And my father, for the first time in his life, looked cornered. I'll never forget the night he called me. His voice was rough, broken. You did this. I said nothing. You think you're clever? You think you can stand where I've stood? You're not me, Jayden. You'll never be me. No, I said quietly. I'll be better. The line went dead. Weeks passed. The dynasty unraveled. Marcus suspended. My father forced into temporary leave. The press camped outside their mansion every night. And through it all, I stayed silent, letting the storm do the work. Then one morning the call came. The board wanted me. Not Marcus. Not my father. I walked into that meeting in a plain suit, no entourage, no speeches prepared. Just me. They asked questions, probing, testing. I answered calmly, never raising my voice. I didn't need to, because the truth was already on my side. When I walked out, it was done. The Cole franchise, the empire my father had built, now sat in my hands. That night, I drove to Nana Ba's retirement home. She was weaker now, her breaths shallow, her skin pale. But when she saw me, her eyes lit up, sharp as ever. "You did it," she whispered. I nodded. "They're finished. Marcus? Dad, it's over." A faint smile touched her lips. "No, baby. It's just beginning." She squeezed my hand with what little strength she had left. "Remember what I told you. Don't gloat. Don't rage. Rule quietly. That's how you last." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "I'll make you proud." "You already have," she said. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. The next morning, I stood outside the arena again. The giant banners of Marcus had been torn down overnight. Workers rolled out new ones, temporary placeholders with the franchise's logo. One day soon, it would be my face up there. Not because I'd begged for it, not because I demanded it, but because I'd taken it without ever raising my voice. The city would cheer. The headlines would scream. My father and brother would choke on the silence I'd left behind. And me? I just stood there, breathing in the cool morning air, invisible no longer. This was my empire now. And I wasn't giving it back. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below and tell me what part resonated most with you. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel.